Greetings and welcome to the Ultimate Diamond Information Site's ongoing tutorials, our consumer's guide on understanding cut quality. This will be one in a series of programs covering cut quality. But in this program, we're going to be covering a set of facets that we consider to be the second most important set of facets when it comes to impacting the beauty of the diamond, and even more importantly, the personality of the diamond. Okay, the most important set of facets we would consider to hold the primacy would be the pavilion main facets. Okay, the pavilion main facets are the facets that if those facet angles are cut too steep or too shallow, will greatly impact either light leakage, can make a diamond leak light if they're cut too steep, or cause too much head and body shadow if they're cut too shallow. Okay, so the first most important set of facets we would consider the pavilion mains, which you see lit up on the screen here. The second most important set of facets, however, is what we're going to cover today, and those are the lower half facets, also called the lower girdle facets. Now, the lower girdle facets are so important that they can alter tremendously the personality of the diamond, can alter the optics, the whole appearance of the stone, which we're going to demonstrate in this program. Now, when you look at a GIA report, a lot of diamonds on the market are GIA graded. We sell GIA and AGS, but on GIA reports, lower half facet length amongst the top grades will either be listed as being 75%, 80%, or 85%. Okay, because GIA rounds in increments of 5%. So there's a lot of numbers in between that can alter the appearance of the stone, which we're going to take a look at. In this tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at 7 different lower half facet lengths. So in this program, we're going to be taking a look at lower half facet lengths that will vary from 58.4% in length, 65.4% in length, 73.6% in lower half length, 75.5, 76.8, 79.5, and then 85% lower half facet length. And as I was reading those off, you kind of saw the graphics popping up on your screen here, showing how the facet diagrams change on the pavilion as we go from the extremely short to the longer lower half length. Okay, so let's now that you know what the lower half facets are, let's get on to the visual observations. Okay, in this first view, we're going to be taking a look at lower half facet length in diffuse type lighting environments. Okay, and we're going to be going into our default lighting, which we use when we're shooting videos of diamonds and showing consumers the differences in appearance when it comes to brightness and contrast or pattern scintillation. The 2 diamonds that are up on the screen right now are the 2 diamonds that we're using in this study that have short lower half facet length. Okay, so this diamond here that you see on the left has 58.4% lower half length, and the diamond next to it has 65.4% lower half length. And these are 2 diamonds that because of the lower half length won't make GIA excellent or AGS ideal. Okay, for different reasons in each system, but just briefly, these don't make GIX AGS ideal. These diamonds, as you look at them in diffuse lighting right now, you'll notice a very broad contrast pattern. You'll see broad, chunky flashes of light happening within each of these. Nice bright flashes. These 2 stones happen to be the best proportioned, older styled diamonds that I could find for this study. Okay, these aren't cut as precisely as our hearts and arrows diamonds are, but these 2 stones embody the old world appearance of old European cuts. In fact, these 2 diamonds are old European cut diamonds that happen to be very nicely proportioned stones. They're great diamonds for this study. And as you can see, this lower half facet length very simply just contributes to a very broad flash when it comes to looking at them in diffused light. Now that is if they're cut, if their proportions are great. If you take a chunky faceted old European cut like this and you cut them to bad proportions, it's going to be more dismal looking. There can be too much head and body shadow within the stone, or too much light leakage, which would contribute to a less bright stone. Okay, so these diamonds are no exception to the rule when it comes to proportions and diamond cutting, but these ones are cut very nice. Okay, so as what's going to come on the screen now is we're going to look at the diamond with the 65.4 lower half facet length, and we're going to move to the next one, which is 73.8% lower half facet length. Now, this diamond that you see coming on the screen with 73.8% lower half facet length, you'll notice a pretty dramatic difference in the appearance between these two diamonds, and this is really the difference you can expect to see when you go from old European cuts to modern day round brilliant cuts. Okay, now this modern round brilliant cut that's on the screen right now, while it does have a different appearance, you'll see its contrast pattern is different from the old European cut, and that difference in the contrast pattern that you see and in the types and the nature of reflections that you see is due to the lower half facet length. This is what happens when you change lower half facet length from 65.4 to 73.8. Okay, by the way, that 73.8 will be rounded on a GIA report up to 75%. So if you were looking on a GIA report, it would say 75% lower halves. Now, when we go, by the way, that 73.8, that's like the lowest lower half facet length that'll make it into the GIA excellent cut grade or the AGS ideal cut grade. Okay, so that's an appearance that'll make top grade in GIA or AGS, considering all other factors are equal. The next comparison coming up on your screen now is looking at the 73.8% lower halves next to the diamond with 75.5% lower halves. Okay, and you may be saying, I don't see no big difference between those two, and you'd be absolutely correct. There isn't no big difference between those two. Okay, so from 73.8 to 75.5, we're starting to get into a zone here in the 75, between 75 to 80% lower halves that comprise a lot of diamonds on the market. Especially diamonds that fall within the GIA excellent or AGS ideal cut range. At least with a lot of some manufacturers that we do business with, and a lot of diamonds we see, their lower half length fall in the zone that we're going to be looking at in the next couple of diamonds. Okay, so here's your brightness and contrast differences from 73.8 to 75.5. This next comparison is we're looking at the 75.5 alongside of a diamond that has 76.8 lower halves. Okay, and these diamonds, these modern round brilliant cuts that we're using in this particular program, all have superior optical symmetry. These diamonds are extremely are cut to an extreme level of precision and have top of the line optics when it comes to brightness and contrast. So as you see in this program, when we go from diamond to diamond, there will be very little difference as we go from, just as you didn't see a big difference from the first two diamonds with 58.4% lower halves and 65 lower halves. As we go from, you saw a dramatic difference when we went from 65 to 73. The difference from old European cuts to modern round brilliant cuts. But as we go now, especially in this lighting, in diffuse lighting, you're not going to see tremendous differences. Okay, so we want to go from diamond to diamond to show you, our viewing audience, just how faint the nuances are as we go. But then we're going to look at some of the more dramatic differences from lower to higher. Okay, so that we just looked at 76.8% lower halves. Okay, here is 76.8 next to 79.5% lower halves. Okay, and if you're picking up anything, you're seeing that the pavilion mains, the facets that constitute the arrows, are getting a little bit skinnier. Okay, just as you saw in the facet plots before, the pavilion mains get skinnier as the lower girdle facet length increases, and you'll see that in the face-up view. And then here, and you'll see it more so in this diamond than in any other. And this is looking at the ideal cut stone with 85% lower half facet length. Okay, so as you see, as we go from diamond to diamond, the lower half facet length is getting longer, the pavilion mains are getting thinner, the nature of the reflections are altering as we go from diamond to diamond. And just for a fun comparison, take a look here, because these three stones that are up on the screen right now is looking at the 65% lower halves, 75% lower halves, and 85% lower halves. Okay, so here's your difference, and notice the different types of contrast patterns as you go from shorter to longer. Okay, yes, that difference in the optical characteristics is all due to the lower half facet length. And we're very excited about our video technologies, because we're able to capture this stuff in high definition and show you, the consumer, very accurately the appearance of any diamond and the effects of lower half facet lengths on the appearance of the stone. Now, we're going to go away from diffuse lighting. Well, you know, before we leave diffuse lighting, let me just I'll pop up on the screen here. This is these three stones that are popping up right here are diamonds that all would make the GIA Excellent or AGS Ideal cut range. Okay, so this is lower half facet length at 75, 80, and 85%. Okay, or the 75.5, 79.5, and 85% lower half facet length. I'm rounding up a little bit here just to keep it simple. Okay, so now this is diffuse lighting. And while we do see pretty dramatic differences as we go, you know, jump from percentage to percentage every 5%, I think there's even more dramatic differences when we go into spotlighting and look at fire and sparkle patterns. Okay, and so what we're going to do now is we're going to head into spotlighting and look at that in lower half facet length. Okay, as we go into the spotlighting environment, we're going to see differences in lower half facet lengths, but in a totally, completely different way, because now we're going to be looking at fire and sparkle patterns within each of the diamonds. And the difference, in my opinion, is a little bit more dramatic in spotlighting. Probably because spotlighting focuses on more individualized flashes of light that are more intense. Okay, and as I'm talking here, you see these two diamonds with the shorter lower half facets, the 58.4 and 65.4% lower half facets, that are they're just big, bold, broad, chunky flashes. Okay, and just an interesting fact too, these things that we're seeing in rounds, it's the same kind of optical effect that we're going to see in other shapes as well, like cushions or princess cuts or whatever shape it is that we're looking at. If those lower halves are cut shorter, it's going to contribute to this nice, bold, broad, blocky flash that we see in these diamonds. Now, as we move from the 65.4% lower halves to the 73.6% lower halves, okay, you're going to start to notice a pretty dramatic little difference going on here. You still have broad flash going on in this modern round brilliant cut with 73.6 lower halves, but you'll notice the addition of more tinier flashes of light. Okay, and this new element here of scintillation, this different type of scintillation or sparkle pattern that we're seeing, is a graduation we're going to see take place as we increase the length of the lower half facets. Okay, so there's your comparison of 65.4 lower halves, which still embodies that old European cut, next to a modern round brilliant cut, and happens to be one of the shortest lower girdle facet lengths that'll make it into the GIA Excellent AGS Ideal range. Okay, now as we progress here, here's 73.6 lower halves next to 75.5, and if you're saying to yourself, I don't see a huge difference there, you'd be correct, because just as we're going from little bits to little bits, as we lengthen the lower girdle facets by little bits, you're only going to see little increases in the amount of sparkle scintillation, or the tinier flashes of light. And this coming up on behind me here, you've seen 73.6 next to 75.5 lower halves. Okay, this one now that's coming up behind me is 75.5 lower halves next to 76.8 lower halves. These are very popular appearances that you'll see in a lot of hearts and arrow diamonds on the market. Both of these diamonds happen to be picture perfect hearts and arrows. This next comparison coming up on the screen here is 76.8 next to 79.5% lower half facets. Here we're getting to the end of what's considered traditional hearts and arrows diamond cutting. Okay, so 76.8 next to 79.5. A lot of diamonds in our inventory fall in this 75 to 79 lower half facet length zone. Now, bear in mind, 79.5 will be rounded up on a GIA report to just an 80% lower half facet length. Okay, and then lastly, here's 79.5 next to 85% lower half facet length. We've started introducing a line of diamonds cut purposely with 85% lower half facet lengths for the sole purpose of increasing sparkle scintillation. We like this effect that we see. When we show this to consumers, they also like it. Now, is this more beautiful than the other one? No, it's not. But it produces a sparkle pattern that is extremely pleasing to the eyes, and a lot of people enjoy. So if people enjoy it, then we're going to carry it. Okay, so as we saw little increases happening as we increase the lower girdle facet length, of course you're going to see more dramatic differences in appearance when we not make such tiny increments, but observe greater increments in the lower half facet length. So behind me now, we're looking at the 73.6 lower half facet length next to the 79.5 next to the 85. So on a GIA report, this would simply say 75% lower half facet length, 80% lower half facet length, and 85% lower half facet length. Because remember, GIA rounds the lower half facet length to the nearest 5%. Okay, so this appearance that you're looking at here are three different optical appearances that you can see within the GIA Excellent or AGS Ideal cut grade. All right. Now, this next comparison coming up on the screen, this is a little bit more dramatic appearance, because now we're looking at the 65% lower halves, the 75.5% lower halves, and the 85% lower halves. Okay, so of course this appearance is a lot more dramatically different as we go from diamond to diamond within the realm of round brilliant cut diamonds. And this comparison here basically just kind of wraps up our video tutorial for today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I love teaching, and I like learning about these things myself. So we learn as we see more and more diamonds. The way that you will learn about diamonds is it's just like anything else in life. The more you look at it, the more familiar you become with it. So I hope you enjoyed it. Stick around for our next, and I hope we see you again soon. Thank you.